ha trabajado para KaKaRoTo durante los últimos 4 años, mayormente como un experto en VoIP streaming y en varios proyectos relacionados como G-Streaming y Farsight. Es también el responsable de LibNice, librería de NAT Traversal que implementa las especificaciones de ICE y es utilizada por muchas otras aplicaciones de alto nivel. En su tiempo libre es el líder del proyecto AMSN Messenger, así como uno de los fundadores de los proyectos PS Freedom, PL3 y PS3 MFW. Con frecuencia más conocido por su alias KaKaRoTo en el mundo de los juegos y consolas, especialmente por su trabajo en la habilitación del Homebrew y el Jailbreaker de la PS3. Lo recibimos con un fuerte aplauso.
Thank you. I don't speak Spanish, so I will give the talk in English. Do you think that you need someone to translate? If somebody thinks you need someone to translate, raise your hand, please. And can someone say that in Spanish so they understand?
Está preguntando si creen que necesitan que traduzcan.
Yes? Okay. Okay. So, hola. Huh?
You're sure that he
Ahí
translates
está.
what you say?
Please speak slowly, please. So we can pick it up. Huh?
So, hi, I'm Younes Alaoui, and I work for KaKaRoTo, and I'm here to talk to you about open source, hacking, DRM, and explain to you why open source is important and how you can contribute, how you can help.
¿Y cómo puedes ayudar?
Okay. So, I will talk about who I am and what's software and source code and what's open source. And I will talk about hacking, what it means exactly, and why closed source and DRM is bad for you. I will put the slides here so I can follow. And how you can help with open source software around the world. And then if we have time, we will start a little debate. Thank you. So, I'm Younes Alaoui. I'm from Marruecos, and I'm living in Canada. And I've been an employee for KaKaRoTo for the past 4.5 years. And I'm involved in open source for over 10 years now. In my work, I'm an expert in voice over IP, NAT traversal, and streaming in general. I'm known by the alias of KaKaRoTo. I'm the leader of the AMSN project. I'm an active member of the PS3 hacking community. So what's software and source code? I will say this quickly because you probably know. Software as well as source code is a set of instructions that allow you to produce a result. Source code is text that human can read and understand, and you can transform the source code into binary code that the computer will be able to understand. Software, executable code, as well as the source code, they are all like a recipe. When you cook, you have ingredients and you have steps that you need to follow, and that produces the meal, that produces the result. Well, a source code or a program in general is exactly the same thing. You have a set of instructions that you follow, well, that the computer actually will follow, and it will give you a result for you to enjoy. So I was going to show a video from Richard Stallman from the documentary that he made called The Code Linux, in which he explained this analogy between programs and recipes. And he was explaining how a program is basically the same thing as a recipe, like what I just said before, but open source is basically when you go to a friend's house and you share recipes with each other. And when you modify the source code, it's the same thing as you modify a recipe. You add more sugar, you add more salt, and you modify the recipe to have something that is more to your own taste. And contributing back is when your friend comes over and he tastes the new meal that you made and he likes it, then you can give him back the changes that you did to the recipe. And one of the points that Stallman raised in the video is that companies are trying to tell you that if you modify a recipe or if you give a recipe to your friend, then you are a pirate and you should go to jail. And that's unacceptable. So what's open source? Open source is source code for a program that is freely available to anyone who wants to have access to it. There are many different licenses for open source, and usually you can copy, modify, and distribute the program or the source code that you modified. One of the advantages is that it allows you to learn from other people's experiences. You have access to what they did, and they spent a lot of time writing that code. And by having access to that, you don't have to repeat the same thing. You don't have to learn everything again. You just see what they did and learn directly from their experience. It will also allow you to fix bugs or add new features to software that you use. If it's open source, you can just go and start modifying it and enhance it and contribute back to the community so other people can also enjoy these changes that you did. And that's something that you can't do with proprietary code. And the analogy is basically it's a recipe that you share with your friends, that you can share, as opposed to if you go to a restaurant, they will never give you the recipe to what they just serve you. So what is hacking? Hacking is simply the act of working around a problem. So if you have a problem, then instead of fixing it the right way, you work around it, and that's what we call hacking. And it's not a bad thing. People will make you think that it's a bad thing, but it's not. That's what we do. We are developers, and that's what we do every day. The job of a developer is to fix a problem, to find a solution to that problem. So that's why when we say, what are you doing? And you answer, I'm hacking. It's usually meaning I'm programming, but we say we're hacking because that's our job. We fix problems. And you all hack every day, but maybe you don't even realize it. If you have a meal and you add salt to your meal because it's not salty enough, you just hacked the meal, basically, because the problem was that it wasn't salty enough, and you modified it. You hacked around the problem by modifying the end result. You didn't add the salt during the cooking, you add it afterwards. So you hacked it. And another stupid hack is your TV isn't working. Instead of actually opening it and repairing it, you just keep hitting it until it works. That's another hack, and I'm sure everybody did that at some time. And this is a hack that I did recently.
Este es un
It's a
hack
hack.
que yo hice hace poco.
I didn't have the right tool, so I hacked a tool to do the job. Okay?
Yeah, sí.
Is it okay? It's okay. This is mine, and this is mine. I can do it because it's my property. But the companies, when it comes to software, they will tell you this is piracy. This is piracy because you are stealing money from them. Because I did this, I did not buy a new hardware, so they are losing money. So they say you are a pirate and you should go to jail. So why closed source and DRM are bad? Closed source, one of the biggest issues that I find personally is that it causes people to create the same thing multiple times. You have a library that does something for you, but you can't use it because it's not open source. You don't have access to it. So you have to create the same thing again, even though somebody else already did it. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy, and it's a waste of money. And that's a big issue because when you think about it, printf, which is a standard printing function in C, you have access to it, you can use it. But if everything was closed, you wouldn't even have access to that kind of function. You would have to write your own every time for every project. But why did we stop at printf? Why did we make printf available, but we didn't make some other functions available? Where did we put the limit of where everything should be available to everyone, and where should we stop providing the source to the implementations that people worked on? Another issue is that it prevents innovation and the crowdsourcing of ideas. What I mean is that if you have a great idea that you want to apply to, let's say, Windows, you can't because you don't have access to that source code. So Windows is only advancing in what ideas the employees of Microsoft have. And they have so many users, and I'm sure that many of their users had really great ideas, but they were blocked by the very fact that their software is proprietary. And that's not the case with Linux, where everybody can actually contribute or at least share their ideas, and the community can help build that for them. DRM, Digital Rights Management, is a solution that companies found to prevent what they call piracy by imposing limitations on what you can do with the software that they sell you. It's not bad. Personally, I don't mind DRM. It's not a bad thing. The problem is how DRM is implemented. Because if you have an idea and you sell a product, you have every right to protect yourself. You have every right to protect your investment and your ideas, and that's part of the freedom. But your freedom to protect yourself should not be higher than the freedom of somebody else. It shouldn't be higher than the freedom of your customers. And DRM, that's the big issue with it, is that it will prevent our own freedom in using our products. If I want to play a game, for example, and I lose the internet, and then the game stops, it's not my fault, but I bought the game. And that's an issue because it takes away my freedom to be able to play the game whenever I want, wherever I want. It's not preventing pirates because they can just bypass the DRM. It's preventing the actual legal users from having their own freedom with what they bought. And that's the big issue with DRM. So how can you help open source in general? How can you help the cause? Because it is a cause, it's a fight. We are fighting for our rights, and we are fighting against monopolies from big companies, and we are fighting to make it known to the world that this is the right way of doing things. So how you can help is in multitudes of ways. You can help, first of all, by using open source whenever it is possible. I'm not saying that you should only use open source. If you need something that only a proprietary software achieves, then you can use it because you are free to use what you want. But whenever you can, it's always preferable to use something that is open source. If you use a product and it doesn't do something, it's missing a feature or it has a bug, and you want that fixed, do not be shy. You should go out and try to either fix it or at least report it so others can take on that task. You can help the community in different ways. It's not always about code. So if you don't have the confidence that you can write some... If you don't have the confidence to write some code that will be accepted upstream, you can always start small and slowly go up in the ladder. You can do translations Many projects start as being English-only projects, but you can do Spanish translations. You can report bugs when you find them, or you can just go to the Bugzilla of the project and read the various bugs and do triage, which means if you see two bugs that are the same, you can mark one as duplicate so that the developers don't have to go through everything all the time. You can go on forums or on IRC and help users with what you want, with what you know. So if you know an answer to a question, you can give it to them. You don't need to wait for the developers who are already busy to come and answer their users. You can always help with that. And also, if you follow a mailing list, there will be discussions about how the project should advance. You can always share your opinions. It's not because you're not a developer that you don't have a voice. You always have a voice. So go out there and give your opinion, what you think is right, what you think the software should do, how it should evolve. And you will be helping that project. You will be making it change, making it evolve in a way that you think is better. And that would be your contribution. And whenever you write your own code, try to use an open source license, because it will help others, and others will help you in return. Another thing you can do is to promote open source whenever it's possible. If you know someone who is a developer, you can try to convince them to publish the source code of what they do. You can help your family and your friends to get started with Linux. There's Ubuntu, for example, that is very easy to use, and you can install it on your friends and your family's computers, and just by having them use that, it will help the community, because they will be able to use something, and more users means more stable code over time, and it's a good thing. And when you meet people and you start talking about open source and you try to explain to them the philosophy around it, try to explain to them why it's important, that's something that's also important to do, because all the people here are what the big corporations show them on TV, and what they say about pirates and what they say about DRM is good for you, and all stupid stuff. So just by telling people what you think, you are helping destroy that wall between us and them. If you can convince your school, your university, or your workplace to switch to open source technologies when possible, that's also something that you can do. And don't forget that if you have a good idea, it's more powerful than the code or the project that they would represent. If you can have an idea and start a project or start a discussion with a developer about this idea, you may give birth to a new project that would be very useful to people, and you don't even need to write any code. You just have to provide that initial idea, and this is also very helpful. So nothing is unreachable. This is something that you should always remember. Nothing is unreachable. You will always become better with experience, so you just have to keep trying in order to improve. If you are scared at first, then it's not a problem. Try, and be ready to accept that you will receive critics, and be ready to embrace those critics and learn from them, and you will become better with time. So never be scared, and never forget that nothing is unreachable. I will give an example for this first sentence that I said, that you need experience and you will gain it by always trying to improve. I have a friend who, well, he wasn't a friend at first, but he was someone who came to the AMSN project and he wanted to help us. But he had zero coding experience. He didn't know at all about coding, but he wanted to help us. So he tried to fix bugs, he tried to do different things, and his code was really, really, really bad. And he would send 10 lines of patch, and I would give him 100 lines of comments. And I was scared that he would be pushed away. So I always told him, don't worry, you learn from it, but you have to understand that I am picky. I want you to learn how to code correctly. So it's not because you write bad code, which actually it is, but it's not because of that, but it's because I want you to learn how to do it properly. And after a few times, he was giving us a lot of changes that were bad, and I told him, I think this is not good for you. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend you, but I think that maybe you should do something different in order to help us instead of writing code. And he actually took it really well, and he said, can I stay in the IRC channel and help users? I said, of course. He was, thank you, I want to help, and I will help the users. And when I get better, I will give you some more patches. And it took only a few more months, and we gave him SVN access, and he is now one of the maintainers of the AMSN project. He got better a lot faster than I thought. He learned a lot from everything that I told him, and he is now one of the maintainers. He's actually the only one who is still coding on the project, and he's taken care of the forums, he's taken care of IRC, he's taken care of the bugs and the features. And this is someone who, at first, I told him, you have no experience in coding, maybe this isn't for you. But he was not discouraged. So this is again to what I said earlier. Nothing is unreachable. Keep trying, and you will get the experience, and you will become good in the project that you want to work on. Because every project is different. Everyone has its own coding style. So even if you are good yourself, you might come into a project that works differently, and it may not look like you are good because they are simply different. So you will adapt, and you just have to keep trying and never get discouraged. One more little thing, you must not be easily offended. On the internet, there are stupid people. So if someone says something to you that is offending, don't listen to it. You should not be easily offended. Like my friend, he could have been offended so many times because I was rejecting his patches or because I told him that he didn't know how to code. But he didn't get offended, and he learned. And the result is that he's one of the maintainers now. Another point is that there is no elite. Everyone is equal on the internet. There is no elite. And one example is, in my case, for example, I receive from the PS3 scene, I always receive messages from people who say, I'm part of the elite, and only the elite have access to stuff that we actually don't. And they always see us as the PS3 developers are an elite that nobody can access. But it's not true. When I started working on the PS3, I was not known by anybody. Nobody knew who I was. They heard that I was on the AMSN project, but I never did any code for the PS3. I had no idea about anything. And I went online. Google is your friend. I looked for information. I found the information, and I learned from it on my own. And then I released PS Freedom, and I am now considered one of this elite, but you don't have to be something special just to be considered one of the developers in a community. You just have to be motivated. That's the only requirement. You need to be motivated and passionate about what you do. And everything is open to you once you do that. So there is no place for discrimination. So you have to always remember that you are equal to anybody else, and go there and do what you want to do and give your ideas, and you will be respected for that. As for English, you don't need to know perfect English. You just need other people to understand you. So Google Translate usually is enough. It's bad, but as long as they understand what you want to say, it's good enough. If you go and say, there is this bug, if I click here, it crashes, even if all the words are mixed, if they know where to click and they can get the same crash, then your opinion was as valued as if it was someone who speaks perfect English. That's one thing. The second thing is that there are different communities, and even though English is usually what's used everywhere in terms of development and open source, but most people are not native English speakers. I know that from my background in the open source, I saw that most of the time people are from Spain involved in open source. So there are forums that are Spanish only, so you can always go there for help or to help them. And you don't have to think as English as being a barrier that you can't go through. You can always go there, use Google Translate, or use specific Spanish forums or projects, and it will work just as fine. So that's it. I would like to thank KaKaRoTo for sending me here to be with you. I'd like to thank the organizers from ExpoLibre for inviting me, especially Felipe and Jorge. It's cute, huh? Thanks for Chile for welcoming me here. It's a beautiful country. I love it so far, and I will stay here for a few more days. And I would also like to thank all the open source developers in the world, because they are making the world better simply by doing what they do. So I'd like to send a thank you to all of them. And link for KaKaRoTo website. And this is my blog if you want to hear some of my crazy thoughts. And that's it.
So.
Thank you.
¿Alguna pregunta en español? Sí, la podemos traducir, así que da lo mismo. Aprovechen. Sí, bueno, hay regalos para los que preguntan, siempre.
Translate to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I get one?
Yeah. Ya, yo pienso que parte de la charla de Jun ha apuntado un poquito a este tipo de situaciones. O sea, aquí claramente hay una barrera autoimpuesta por ustedes, porque estoy seguro que hay cosas que preguntarle, pero nadie le pregunta. O sea. No, sí, es lo que quería, de hecho, motivar. No, sí, era eso, era eso.
No, quería hacer una pregunta en particular. ¿Qué lo motivó a él a hacer un firmware para... O sea, no estoy hablando de que es diferente la pregunta, no de que se va a lanzar algo.
Ya, sí, sí, lo entiendo.
¿Qué lo motivó a hacer eso?
So he wanted to stress out that this is just a PS3 related question, but it's not when you are going to release the next firmware. So he wanted to know what was your main motivation behind you entering this hacking
The
scene.
motivation?
Yeah.
Funny story. I was on a forum, just browsing the internet, and I saw a dump of the USB protocol being sent by the PS jailbreak dongle, and I saw these numbers, and I was curious. What do they mean? So I looked at the USB specification, and I tried to match the protocol specification with the data on the forum. And that's how it started. It was just pure curiosity. You're there. It was pure curiosity. And when I realized what it was doing, I thought maybe I can do the same. So I tried to do it. It was, again, curiosity on whether or not I can do it with my phone. And then PS Freedom was born from that work. And from that, I was just, having fun.
Ok, so te dice que lo que pasó fue pura curiosidad. Él estaba navegando por ahí por un foro y vio un dump de la comunicación entre, creo que era un dispositivo USB y la máquina misma. Y lo que hizo fue agarrar esta comunicación, que es en texto plano usualmente, ustedes la pueden ver, esto es algo que da origen a otros hacks también, y agarró la especificación de USB y quiso en el fondo tratar de hacer el pairing, o sea, entender lo que estaba pasando puramente curioso. Y así fue como nació el proyecto PS3 Freedom, libertad para la PS3. Así que fue puramente por curiosidad.
You get a gift.
So you can translate.
Dicho anteriormente,
nadie es un gran desarrollador. Si eres cualquier persona que sea suficientemente inteligente como para conocer sus limitaciones va a decir lo mismo que si le preguntas a él o cualquiera, todos van a decir que no somos lo suficientemente buenos.
Pero mi pregunta es que personas que ya tienen menor grado de conocimiento, ¿cómo pueden ayudar a colaborar? Porque tienen muchas ganas de introducirme al software libre, pero ¿cómo podía empezar a ayudar?
No, pero esto no es necesariamente relacionado con la PS3, en general, te gustaría más aprender. Porque yo estaba hablando de soportar tu opinión, te estaba diciendo solamente que no fueras tan tímido o modesto, porque todo en el fondo pensamos. Sí, no se entiende, lo que podrías hacer tú desde tu posición. So,
I have no idea what's happening. It's a question to you, to me.
No. I was just trying to support the guy. So he was saying at first that he doesn't consider himself to be a great developer. Then we went into some kind of interchanging, which I say that
Nobody considers themselves.
Yes, everyone says the same. That was what I told him. And he said, well, even though I consider myself not being a good developer, I really want to help. I really have this motivation and I need to find a way to do it from my perspective, from my position of not being a good developer. So he wants you to pinpoint a few things that he can probably do from his position. But I don't understand it as a developer.
Yeah. You are a good developer because you have the motivation. That's rule number one. Rule number two is that it doesn't matter how good you code or you think you code. Spend enough time on it and it will be good enough for anybody. So find something that you want to do. You don't need me to tell you what you should do. You should find what you want to do. Then do it and continue doing it until it's exactly the way you want it to be. That's all you need.
Lo único que necesitas, o sea, ya eres un buen desarrollador a partir del momento donde estás motivado. Eso es lo más importante. Si estás motivado, vas a hacer la cosa, tratar, pasar tiempo, no abandonar, y de ahí vas a ser un buen desarrollador. Es lo más importante en el trabajo de desarrollador. Y ahora te dice que no necesitas alguien que te diga lo que tienes que hacer. Solamente tú vas, tú buscas algo que te interesa, lo haces, lo mejoras, lo haces lo mejor posible y lo mandas. Y pues, por supuesto, pedir ayuda en cualquier, o sea, la gente que está en el proyecto, está trabajando en un proyecto y te van a ayudar. Solo hay que perseverar y hacer las cosas, seguir haciendo las cosas y se te viene, después de un momento, en todo caso, el código va a ser bueno.
Yo entiendo sí que muchas veces uno tiene esta, porque a veces a mí me pasó también hace muchos años atrás, y es que a veces uno quiere empezar en grande, o sea, haciendo algo inmediatamente que consideré importante. Pero tal como lo mencionaba Yunes en algunos slides que se dedicaban a esto, es que tú puedes empezar quizás viendo algún plugin de proyectos que te interesa, porque seguramente te interesan algunos proyectos, algunos que tú usas. Y seguramente ahí van a haber un montón de problemas que los programadores les gusta llamar low hanging fruit, así como fruta que está colgando bien bajito. Son problemas simples de resolver, que pueden estar por ahí. Es un consejo personal, no es algo de ellos. Si uno quiere que tú no lo necesitas a él para que te diga lo que hacer.
Sí, en todos los proyectos son miles de tareas simples que hay que hacer y que puedes ir y hacerla, ¿no?
And one more thing, when you do what you want to do and you make it the way you want it to be, then your users will tell you what you should do. That's the next step.
Claro, cuando encuentras lo que quieres hacer y lo haces de la forma que tú pretendías hacerlo, van a ser tus usuarios los que te digan que tienes que hacerlo mejor.
And you don't need to listen to them.
El problema que tú mencionas, tiro, no, sí, yo lo entiendo. El problema que tú mencionas lamentablemente es parte de esta lucha. Hay que entender que las compañías lo que quieren, su principal motivador es vender. Y mientras nosotros como usuarios les permitamos seguir con esto, las cosas siempre van así, porque tienes que entender que el esfuerzo por hacerle la ingeniería inversa a un hardware para lograr implementar un driver es mucho mayor que el esfuerzo que les tomaría a ellos por limpiar su código, que aunque no lo creas, muchas veces son las razones en las que ellos se amparan para no liberar los drivers, y proveerte de suficiente información como desarrollador para que tú puedas implementar los drivers. La verdad que la pelota en ese lado no está en los desarrolladores de software libre, está en las compañías que te están vendiendo el laptop y está en ti como usuario. Entonces yo te hago la pregunta simple. Tú tenías un computador que no funciona, porque seguramente la mitad de los drivers están implementados por alguien que lo único que tenía era tu misma herramienta, el mismo computador para hacerlo. ¿Tú qué has hecho para que eso cambie? ¿Tú has mandado un mail a HP diciendo que no le vaya a volver a comprar nunca más un computador porque no tenéis drivers? Entonces estáis hackeando, todo el mundo trata de buscarle el workaround, pero el problema es que el modelo es el que está mal, ¿me entendés? Tú eres un consumidor y debieras tener el derecho de... Yo en tu caso lo que preferiría y lo que he hecho con mi familia es que yo cuando voy a comprar un laptop barato, un notebook, hay unos que vienen con free de OS o hay otros que vienen con Linux. Entonces digo, ya, esta cuestión puede funcionar mal y todo lo que queráis, pero si me lo están pasando con Linux, probablemente hay drivers para el dispositivo. Así que yo prefiero esos equipos y los compro.
Es como si tú cuando te fueras a comprar un auto, alegaras porque cuando usas benzina, la bencinera Copec, el auto no anda bien.
Claro.
Entonces tú decís, ¿cuándo Copec va a dar benzina que ande bien en mi auto? Nadie hace eso. Todo el mundo asume que si un auto anda mal, es culpa del fabricante del auto que te vendió un auto que no sirve bien, ¿cierto? Aquí pasa lo mismo. La gente asume que la culpa es del proveedor del sistema operativo porque tu notebook anda mal con ese sistema, cuando en realidad la culpa es del fabricante del notebook que no usó un hardware que era bueno. Entonces tú al final lo que uno tiene que hacer como usuario es ser vocal en esa decisión. Los fabricantes de notebooks no tienen idea que hay gente que se queja de que su hardware no funciona en Linux y porque dice la comunidad es que nadie usa Linux en nuestro notebook, si nadie nunca nos ha dicho que tiene problemas. Pero en realidad es porque la gente que tiene problemas, en vez de alegar a la persona a quien le pagó, le va a alegar a la persona a quien no le ha pagado. Te fijas, tú le pasaste plata a HP y preguntas cuándo Reinaldo, que no recibe ni un peso de la plata que tú pagaste, va a hacer algo para arreglarlo. No lo estoy diciendo tan burdo, pero se entiende la idea. Cuando a HP tú le pasaste plata, con esa plata lo puede arreglar.
Dale de nuevo.
C'est pas développeur libre.
Ya, o sea, bueno, a cierto nivel hay un poco de relación. Nosotros supongamos trabajamos por una empresa y esta empresa sí tiene contacto con hardware vendors, gente que fabrica hardware, y nosotros hacemos pegas para esta empresa. Y lo que hacen, yo pienso, lo que hace colabora en ese sentido, y no es advertising, esto es real, es que ellos tratan, pero por todos los medios posibles, de que esta gente lance estos desarrollos que son propietarios en naturaleza hacia la comunidad y vendiéndose por el lado que va a ser mucho más fácil de mantener y todo ese cuento. Pero realmente la pelota está al lado, tal cual te dice Daniel, está al lado de la empresa y tú como consumidor, porque con tu opción de compra lo que tú haces es alimentar lo que ellos están haciendo. Y el profe quería decir algo acá hace rato.
What?
Comentario, o sea, uno se puede quejar de que las cosas hoy día no funcionan, pero si yo recuerdo cómo eran las cosas hace 10 años atrás, instalar Linux en una máquina de escritorio era un drama y en un notebook era imposible.
O sea, él te dice que, claro, y es verdad, o sea, hace 10 años atrás.
I just wanted to say something that I just remembered. My first year of university, so I had basically zero experience. I had a USB modem for internet, which was not supported by Linux. But I wanted to make it work because, I need my internet. And I kept playing with it. I looked at drivers that were there. I looked at I actually opened it and I looked at the model of the chipset inside. And I found that there is another USB modem that is supported by a French community that uses the same chipset. And so I took their code and I tried to adapt it for the right IDs, and I made it work. And it was just by trying and trying and trying. And then I made that available so people in Canada who were in the same situation as me were able to, it just worked for them. And this is because some guy in his garage who had pretty much no experience just wanted to make it work, and he tried and he succeeded. So if you really need something to work and it doesn't, try to fix it yourself, or try to ask those who can for help, or email the manufacturer and start yelling.
Sí. So, lo que te dice es que él te cuenta una historia del mismo, en el primer año de la universidad, dice, cuando no tenía ninguna experiencia en este mundillo, él tenía un modem USB que no estaba soportado por Linux, y esto era bien frecuente en ese tiempo. Los modems era uno de los pain más grandes para nosotros. ¿Y qué pasó? Que él, empezó a jugar un poquito porque necesitaba que funcionara, no había soporte en la comunidad, no había un driver específico de ese modem. Lo abrió, se fijó cuál era el chipset, el dado principal, quién era el fabricante. Investigando por ahí encontró que había una comunidad francesa que tenía un módulo, me imagino un driver, que soportaba un dispositivo que usaba este mismo chipset. Y lo que él hizo fue, y de hecho es un cambio bien trivial, pero es algo que nadie hace muchas veces, fue adaptarlo seguramente los USB IDs para que el módulo fuera cargado cuando tú conectaras el módem. Y básicamente lo hizo funcionar, para la gente funcionaba de manera instantánea, él lo compartió y lo que hace básicamente un gallo, él se refiere como un gallo trabajando en su garage, habilita en ese momento a la comunidad canadiense, que seguramente eran ellos los que eran los principales consumidores del módem, me imagino, no sé. Y todo el mundo lo podía usar y era porque él se dio la lata de intentar hacerlo. Entonces, si se encuentra un problema, tenés que tratar de arreglarlo. Y si realmente no podías arreglarlo, bueno, el segundo paso es anda y grítale al proveedor, a la raíz de tu problema, ¿quién te vendió esta cosa?
Una pregunta general. Me gustaría saber sus sensaciones, sus impresiones al momento de llegar a trabajar a un proyecto emergente como es colaborar.
He wants to ask what is your feelings about working for a company like KaKaRoTo. This is a global question, so you can go first and then I...
Yeah, I love working for KaKaRoTo because we do open source and everything I work on is open source. So it's a good thing. And I get to go to conferences, so this is cool. And no, I really enjoy the work because it's always challenging. And what I find interesting and what keeps me going day after day is always the challenge. You have a problem and you have to fix it, and this is really cool. And with KaKaRoTo, they always give me challenges that I'm trying to fix, and I learn from it. So the learning experience every time is also important, and so far I have nothing bad to say about KaKaRoTo, and this is not because they're paying me to come here. This is genuinely, I really love my job, and I think KaKaRoTo is a big company in the open source world, and I think they are one of the rare ones, if not the only ones, who are actually doing the things correctly. They are doing it right, and that's it.
Sí, bueno, él dice que él ama trabajar para Colabora, que lo principal dice que es que todo lo que hace es software libre, o open source realmente, y que pero lo que más le gusta es que en la empresa el tipo de proyectos en los que él trabaja siempre lo desafían. Así que lo que más disfruta es el desafío constante y todo el aprendizaje que viene con ese desafío. Bueno, lo otro que dice que no es... sí, y le gustan mucho las conferencias y que no es que esté diciendo esto porque le paga a la empresa del viaje, sino que básicamente es porque realmente es bueno en todo caso. Yo no sé, ¿tú quieres seguramente decir algo?
No, yo diré lo mismo.
¿Sí?
Sí.
La última pregunta, por favor.
Él dice que no tiene ninguna y yo voy a agregar, no sé qué agregar. Yo creo que para mí en particular, que soy solidario con ustedes, yo vengo de aquí, de mismo, de Chile, para mí Colabora significa la posibilidad de, bueno, trabajar en lo que me gusta, la consolidación de un plan así de cabros chicos en el cual empecé a hacer esto y no sabía dónde iba a terminar, lo quería, pero no sabía. Y es la oportunidad de vivir en Chile y trabajar haciendo tecnología, que es algo que se ve de manera muy rara. Quizás hay algunos ejemplos como Daniel y su empresa que realmente están haciendo tecnología, pero tal cual refería Jorge al principio en su primera charla, mucho de lo que se hace en Chile como informático es soportar las verticales de otros negocios. Entonces tú trabajas en un banco, trabajas en un almacén o una empresa crediticia, pero no es mucho de lo que nos gusta a nosotros, o por lo menos lo que me gustaba a mí. Así que para mí Colabora es eso, es la posibilidad de hacer una pega que me resulta desafiante, que es mucho de lo que dice Jones también.
Is that a question there?
Entonces, la última pregunta.
Aprovechando que la charla del señor fue como un poquito más por el lado de bien filosófico, o sea, por decirlo, pues un área también que es como muy fría lo que es la informática o la computación, quería preguntarle en base a la experiencia de él, ¿qué se siente aportar, no sé, sacar un error chico o desarrollar algo muy grande a la comunidad?
Okay, so trying to peruse the fact that you made a talk based on a physiological aspect of open source. He wants to go through that vein of motivation and ask you what it feels like to provide a solution for others to use, even if it's small or big.
In terms of
In terms of personal, like how
what
do
I
you
do,
feel
how
about
I
having
feel?
the chance of providing solutions for others?
Doing a pursuit.
Yeah.
It feels great. No, I enjoy it, but I enjoy three things. First, the reason why I do it, the challenge. I have a challenge, I have something to fix, and I want to fix it. It's, you take a puzzle, and you finish the puzzle, but what did you gain? You gain nothing. But you still want to finish it because it's a challenge to yourself. But this challenge with open source, with what we do, is rewarding because when you finish it, it actually gives you something useful. I didn't like school because they give you an assignment, you do it, and the teacher has 30 times the same thing, and then they just throw it away. And that's why when I was in school, I started working on open source because I wanted my code to actually be used rather than thrown away at the end of the year. So the challenge is the first thing. The second thing is the learning experience. I learn from what I do because if I knew already what it was about, it wouldn't be a challenge, it would be interesting. So it's always something that I don't know how to do it, and I do it. So I learn from it, and this is something that I like. And the third thing is knowing that other people are happy because of what I did, the same way that I'm happy in using my PC, that I didn't write from scratch. I didn't write Linux at all, but I use it and I enjoy it because other people did that. And I know that I'm doing the same thing for others, that they can enjoy their products because of what I'm working on. And it's that feeling that I feel is rewarding. It's just like I said, you have a puzzle. When you finish it, it's actually useful and it's rewarding because it's not just, okay, let's scramble it again. Translate.
Lo que decía es que son 3 puntos que lo motiva. Él le gusta mucho y son 3 puntos que le gusta particularmente. El primero es el desafío constante. Es decir, que siempre como hace la comparación con un puzzle y tiene que armarlo, pero cuando terminas un puzzle normalmente ya se acabó y no pasa nada. Pero con el software es algo parecido, pero cuando lo terminas sirve de verdad. Y estaba diciendo que en la universidad lo que no le gustaba mucho es hacer proyectos donde el código que hacía no servía para nada después. Entonces lo mejor era hacer código libre y compartir este código.
Claro, decía que le cargaba porque el profe le encargaba que hicieran un programa, supongamos, y al final del día, al final del año, el programa lo había impreso, le había mandado un documento, te borraban el mail o lo botaban nomás, porque básicamente la única idea era lograr testear cuánto tú sabías, ¿no? Entonces, desde un principio tuvo ese conflicto en la universidad y lo que él empezó a hacer fue open source ahí, porque en el fondo quería ejecutar el mismo esfuerzo, pero que por último el fruto del esfuerzo le sirviera a otro. Entonces, lo último que termina diciendo es que disfruta mucho el sentir, de alguna manera él está retribuyendo al hacer sentir a otros usuarios de la misma forma que se siente él al usar su PC, porque él no escribió Linux, y de hecho no escribió nada de Linux, ¿sí? Pero yo vía mi esfuerzo estoy haciendo lo que otros han hecho por mí, porque yo estoy usando el trabajo de otros también.
Agradecemos la participación de Jonas Alawi y con esto damos por finalizado el ciclo de charlas de ExpoLibre 2011. Agradecemos la asistencia a quienes nos acompañaron en esta ocasión. Buenas tardes y muchas gracias.